Yeah. Yeah. You read the title, right? Today's Epicenter Live number 7 is partly going to be about the virgin birth. Yes, that's true. You know me. I got to see if I'm on mute. I am on mute. Guys, this is going to be a fun show. I have been excited about this. We've been planning it for a week, and this is for you. This is for your education. And we're going to throw a curveball here. Instead of just getting on and waxing poetic and talking for an hour, what I have Max Freeman with me, founder of Epic Cash and Epicenter. And then I have Yoga Dude. Many of you know Yoga Dude. He's a master miner. He's forgotten more about crypto than most of us will ever know. He is what you would call an OG. I refer to it as old guard. I understand there's another reference to it, but I just think OG, old guard. And what we're going to do is we're breaking today up into 4 different segments. And before I share what those segments are, because there may be some folks listening who are new to Epic Cash and new to this amazing blockchain and group of people, I just want to read to you the opening paragraph that was recently written for a yet-to-be-released article on Epic Cash on Medium. And it is fantastic. And I think it just gives you a real quick summary. So before we dive in, let me do that. Epic Cash is an exceptionally versatile cryptocurrency developed by a talented, ever-growing group community or volunteer community. Epic stands for Electronic Private Internet Cash. It's a secure, scalable, private means of exchange designed for wide distribution, decentralized, privacy-enhanced, reliable money. Now, standing on the shoulders of giants like Bitcoin and Monero, Epic Cash was engineered borrowing the best attributes of both while avoiding the acknowledged shortcomings of each. Crypto, get this, please. Crypto has had over a decade to grow and evolve, and Epic Cash is the purposeful beneficiary of that evolution. It's a faster, more cost-efficient, compact cryptocurrency, leaving a much lighter carbon footprint. I can't wait for you to read the whole article. But today we're going to unpack some of the things related to Epic Cash in this ecosystem. Gentlemen, Max, Yoga Bear, I know you're on. For our first segment, for the 4 segments, I'm simply going to throw out 2 words. Okay. And then I'm going to ask you each individually to unpack them as they relate to cryptocurrency and Epic Cash specifically. Max, you have a few minutes for the opening remarks, and then I want you to pass it over to Yoga. I am going to keep track. So if you ever hear that, just start,
I love it.
Just start wrapping it up. You'll have about 30 seconds. So then Yoga will have a few minutes to and then leave me some time for some follow-up questions. So let's knock this each segment out in 10 to 12 minutes. And I want to wrap up the entire show in an hour. Let's get started.
Let's get it.
Okay, right, guys. Infrastructure bill. Max, what say you?
All right. I'm sharing my screen. Is that working right?
It is.
Okay, great. So the Congress is looking to pass a $2 trillion spending bill for infrastructure. And as part of that, they have to specify where the money is going to come from. And as part of that, they said, well, we're going to add enhanced oversight provisions to the cryptocurrency industry as a way of stamping out rampant tax evasion, evidence for which doesn't exist, of course, but that is their assertion. And we're going to fund $28 billion of our $2 trillion that we're spending by going after people in crypto. And so if you read the legislation, it's as if at the time when the automobile came out, the horse industry said, you need to have a manure collector embedded on your car it's that type of stuff where like it's literally impossible to follow for operators. Like it defines everyone as a broker in this vague way where you can't ensure that you're operating legally, except if you don't play. It creates a lot of ambiguity. And so there's been an open outcry across the industry, a lot of lively debate on Twitter about this, about how this is literally a wet blanket over the formerly roaring fire of cryptocurrency innovation and the blockchain innovation that comes from that. If we want to eradicate the future of crypto in the United States, this infrastructure bill is a great way to do it. And so we can't control that, but we can describe how Epic is well positioned in multiple ways for such an environment. And so if you look at the value that Epic has in this new world that we're entering into, where there's stricter regulation, there's greater costs, greater friction, greater restrictions, there's all these striking contrasts to the free and fair vision of a money system that exists beyond the realm of the here and now, purely an ethereal construct. The Bitcoin that we had is today's BTC, which is a pale shadow of its former self. And Epic is the original uncut Bitcoin vision. So that's what we hope to establish here through this document today.
Excellent. Excellent. Good job. Man, you have 45 seconds to spare. So that's very nice. Okay.
I'll let Yoga use them.
Yoga, you're on.
Well, to me, I'm not going to hit any data points or anything. What I want to talk about is just kind of what blew my mind when I first heard about this. And what I'm seeing here with this legislature is, without understanding anything about crypto, the legislators appear to be looking at it as some kind of a loot piñata, ripe for the whacking. I mean, it's like they're treating it like lottery winnings or something that is just this fallout of wealth, okay, that is just there for plunder. And the government is showcasing its absolutely staggering amount of ignorance in today's technology. I mean, we're talking dinosaurs on parade. I think legislators should have to pass some basic math, technology, and economics exams before they can even run for a government job in this day and age. And all we're hearing is like people talking in slogans without understanding the underpinnings or even the very basics of crypto. They don't sound credible. They don't sound plausible. They sound ignorant. And considering the economies and the livelihoods involved across the world, they sound criminally irresponsible. Mm-hmm. Okay. And I think this is an opportunity, if anything, for the public to ask their representatives to go back to school and bone up on some basics, because they can at least present a less offensive and more educated image. I mean, look, we have driver's test, before you can get behind the wheel of a car, that you have to know the rules of the road and you don't hit people over. What they're talking about, it's like a bear, a bear or a bull, whatever, charging into a china shop, destroying something that is amazing and wonderful and global. And the other thing is, people think about it in terms of America. They're still thinking about it like in banking terms, where wealth is concentrated geographically, not realizing that crypto is not American, it's not Chinese, it's not Russian. It is ubiquitous. It is everywhere and nowhere at the same time. And a lot of the laws they're trying to pass, they don't understand the interactivity and the borderlessness of crypto. In case of Epic Cash, in case of Bitcoin, in case of these other, blockchain technologies. So to me, it's just, they sound just a little bit more intelligent than the Indian government that recently tried to pass some laws that are non-enforceable. Again, this is a 2 trillion plus economy just at its base level, okay, without counting into all, without going into all of the derivative products, And for them to display this level of ignorance, I think it opens up the field to other governments who are more technologically savvy to leave them in the dust. So they're trying to destroy something without understanding what it is, instead of harnessing its power in a constructive way that would generate more opportunities, more economic benefits. And
to me, what it sounds like, if we rewind back to Web 0.0, when the internet first started becoming a thing and emails started becoming a thing, if they would have come out with legislature saying, look, ultimately anybody who sends a photo, an email, we're going to need to have you do KYC and reporting, and ultimately we may tax that. I mean, it's almost that ridiculous that they're going to be able to do this. So to me, it sounds like a whole lot of nothing that's impossible to achieve. I mean, they're even talking yoga, right? You're a miner. So they're talking about anything that you would do, any of the coins that you would send anywhere as a miner, you would first have to fill out government paperwork. Am I right?
Yeah, essentially. But again, this is in larva stages, and as more people weigh in on this, who are, at least more educated people in the government who are weighing in on this, and they're beginning to explain to these dinosaurs that, look, you can't do this. You just can't, it's physically not enforceable. It's physically not achievable.
Yeah. Max, I have a question because Epic is privacy enhanced. How on earth would someone even know if I decided to send you, let's just say 100 Epic for mowing my lawn?
They don't.
Okay, I think we'll leave that segment there. They
moment.
They won't. Okay, now here's the point of the show. This is the title of the show. I'm interested. Virgin birth. Max, go. You're on.
All right. So what we mean by a virgin birth is that the network started at zero with no pre-mine. It is not an ICO. There was no fund raising done. There's no company behind it. And because we bootstrapped this into existence using sheer willpower and completely outside the existing meat space legal structures of corporations and the real world structures, we were able to achieve a launch and get into orbit in a purely digital way. And so unlike everything since Ethereum, which itself had an ICO, literally you have to go back to BTC itself to find a network that has a similarly pristine origin story. And the reason that's important is because, as we've seen in the case of XRP, where they build up this successful network, $50 billion or whatever over 10 years, and then they wake up one morning and the government has said, you're now illegal, we're coming after you, everybody's going to jail, and 60% of exchanges delist you, and you have to spend your precious time dealing with a rear guard legal action rather than innovating against 10,000 other networks. And so that's a big deal for XRP holders, the XRP network itself, XRP users, and Library, Telegram, EOS, Enigma, the list goes on. And so Epic simply does not have that risk. There's a difference between stainless steel and corrosion resistant. And sometimes corrosion resistant is good enough. It's been good enough so far. There's thousands of projects that Ethereum got a pass. Its deal would be flatly illegal today. You couldn't do it. Everybody involved would be in prison before they even clicked the button. It got a pass because it was early, and it's a different landscape today. And so I think investors need to, and even people building businesses around these networks need to ask the question, am I okay with the risk that this network blows up overnight because some guys somewhere decide that it blows up? Because in the case of BTC, 54% of hash rate blinks out overnight when some guys in Beijing say so. If your network depends on permission from powers that be to operate, let's recognize that. And maybe in some cases that's a feature rather than a bug. But in our case, we're aiming to be a direct descendant in the lineage of Bitcoin as BTC moves off its historical leadership position. We're going to be there to take Bitcoin to the next generation based mainly on that lower data footprint and increase transactional capacities. And the censorship resistance. BTC is a highly censorable system, and Epic is a very censorship resistant form of Bitcoin.
There you go. I just got, hold on. My alarm went off. Sorry. Okay, guys. So yoga, virgin birth, what does that mean to you?
Well, to me, it's an organic process. I think Max covered all the technical points of it. Okay. But to me, it's really, it's a very egalitarian, very open to everybody, so nobody had a technological advantage. This was pre-announced, so anybody with a PC, with a Linux operating system. In fact, the launch was delayed to allow people, to be able to add Windows support, so that it wasn't just a Linux crowd that was able to, to get into it. So it was, much more egalitarian. And people just jump in. It's pre-announced. It was well pre-announced before it went live. And on day one, people could connect and start mining. The block count was at 0. And we will talk about proof of work later, but people through their merit started earning Epic Cash, through mining process. And that's it really in a nutshell. I mean, it's really that basic, and to me, if you look at it's like legality and enforceability and things like that, as far as virgin birth goes. To me, like mining, for example, is no different than gardening. Okay. I mean, and exchanging value is really no different than barter. You can trade avocados and, with your neighbor for his lemons. And in case of blockchain and mining, it's the same thing. It's just that there are no borders that could be easily enforced because of today's technological level of advancement. I don't know if that makes sense, but I'm just trying to kind of keep it, on a non-techie level and really.
Well, let's back up virgin birth to where, to me, what I'm understanding is non-virgin births. Let me take it that way. Non-virgin birth would be an ICO. It would be a pre-mine. You would have VCs involved. You'd have, a company involved, or one of the four, or several of the four. Do I have that right?
Yep, absolutely. And that's the thing is, in case of a non-virgin birth, as you put it, you're essentially creating a security. It's like company going public, and this is where SEC gets involved, justly so. Because they're creating value out of nothing. They have to explain what is backing that value. If in case of proof of work and a virgin birth like we did, you start with no value really, okay, and you create value by essentially investing in it and finding use cases, and the process is very organic. On the flip side of that, in case of an ICO, companies print a bunch of coins, they hype it up, they hype up the potential, they make promises to the investors and the community, and then they sell these things as essentially as shares.
Well, what attracts me to all of this, of having no ICO, no pre-mine, no VCs, no company, is I have experienced painfully a pump and dump, to where there was a pre-mine and there were a lot of people who were early in on this. And ultimately, when you have the pre-mine, you have a lot of funds to be able to throw at marketing and such, which I'd call the chum and pump. And then they're sitting there ready with these cheap coins, to where they didn't earn them. It's just part of being an insider, if you will. And then when they get the newbies, when they're chumming the waters, they get all of these newbies to come in and buy. But what people are doing is they're buying into a sell wall of all of these people who know what they're doing. And so that's the pump and dump. You can see it a million times out there. You look at the charts. And so with Epic, it is like it started virgin, it started organic, it started community based, and it just builds value. The blockchain builds value over time and over time and over time and over time. Now, there's going to be a point in time when certain things happen, like the wallet that's going to be coming out, our version 3.0 that's coming out. Those are going to be big milestones to where you're going to see a price increase. But what I do not see happening, and maybe this is just my naivete, is that pump. So I'd rather have a project that is sound, that is going to continue to go up, 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 up for the newbies along the way who want to lean in and trust this, versus I feel so freaking bad. I got my best friend to go in on Pirate when I thought it was going to continue to go to the moon, and he bought in like at $15 because I was believing, a guy out there, a marketer out there that was talking about this thing going to 50, 100, 500, maybe even $5,000. And who am I? Who am I to disagree with this sage who's been, telling people about these 33,000% increases that he's been responsible for? So right. That's what I like about this. And Yeah.
And to your point, really, we're not talking. It's not like we're against pump. We're not gonna go like Fluffy Pony did with Monero a long time ago. Like, look, don't buy Monero. Don't speculate in Monero. We don't want it to go up. We want it to be
the party is fun, but the hangover and the cleanup needs to be thought through, because you can't just go and have a wild party scene. There's consequences. This is a long-term view here.
Yeah.
Right. And look, as our achievements pile up, okay, as better wallet comes out, as we advance to V3, and so on, there'll be more functional value added to our blockchain. Okay. So, and then it really falls on the free market. There is no hype driven pump, but the pump may occur organically because of the more people, familiarizing themselves and jumping into the ecosystem.
Right.
And that is a natural process. There's no hangover after that, because the thing that gives its value doesn't go away the next day. It becomes the new step. It becomes the new part of the foundation that keeps on building and building and building. So the approach is much more organic, and it's much more honest, and it's much more fair. And again, it's not driven, it's not a corporation driven thing with promises to the shareholders. It is a community driven thing where people identify areas of demand. People say, hey, I want a better wallet. And somebody goes, you know what? I can code a better wallet. And somebody says, well, wouldn't it be great if we had this website that would aggregate all of our resources together? Well, somebody just goes, here's a link. I just did this. So that's the organic. That is the sexy of
and I want to take the opportunity here to insert what I have learned through my journey over this past year is how value is added to a blockchain. And you just described a couple of them. But when you think about a blockchain, just think of it as a collection of energy and value that is created by individuals out there. And so the first way is just the creation of it in the first place. At some point in time, somebody had to have that thought in their head that I'm going to go ahead and set the table to be able to develop this blockchain. So that's the creation of it. That's adding energy to this blockchain. And then you have developers out there who jump in, like you were saying, and start developing this. Then along the way, you have miners like yourself, Yoga, that go in and they add their own energy to be able to mine this so that people can buy them. So then you have retail where people can buy them or they can exchange them, where it becomes peer-to-peer currency. And that's a way to be able to add energy. So buying coins is actually you taking your prior energy where you worked hard for your money and you figured a way to be able to buy a coin or a token. And that's adding energy to the blockchain. And the last thing is people can actually earn it. You can go do work for people. We have epicfundme.com. If you go there and you have talents that other people might consider, you can start it's like a GoFundMe. You can start an Epic Fund Me. So that's another way to add energy. So once you have that breakthrough, that aha of what is a blockchain, it decomplicates that, if that's a word, and makes it accessible.
You can say simplifies.
It simplifies it. And so I'm really grateful for the journey with Epic, because it has taught me so much. And I mean, our market cap is less than $5 million. So let me put that in perspective. Guys, what is Monero's market cap right now? Like 3.5 billion?
It's 700 times ours.
700.
Monero has a definite lead. It's been around since 2014. It has thousands of passionate holders and fans and contributors. Many of those are also Epic people. So it's an and proposition rather than an or competitive proposition. So they have a head start for sure. But there are pros and cons to having launched earlier in terms of technical debt and so on, that as the race goes on, we don't have. Is it ahead? Yes. Is it 1,000 times ahead? Okay, 700 times, order of magnitude, let's call that 1,000. Like even the chance of those type of order of magnitude rewards, even if it's a low probability outcome, portfolio theory says you got to have at least a little. And so can you afford not to own at least one Epic coins? There's only going to be 20.4 million. In 7 years from now, there will be 210 per day for 8 billion people. And so a 50-cent lottery ticket that it has a lot of utility in terms of costs avoided. BTC fees are quite expensive. Credit cards aren't getting any cheaper. PayPal, you name it, the costs are going up. Epic gets more
inflation.
Yeah, bail-ins, bailouts, capital controls, restrictions on your money, or just a free and neutral resource that exists like air out there ambiently in the environment for everybody to benefit from and build on.
And the transactions are invisible. So,
exactly.
Epic Cash is invisible Bitcoin. We've unpacked that before. Okay, we're doing good, guys. It's 12:32. And so by my math, I think that we have done well. So we're going to go on to segment number 3, Howey test. Max, what say you?
All right. So as per the Howey test, that is what the SEC uses to determine whether something is a security. If it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, then the SEC is going to interpret it as a duck. And so what we saw in cases such as Telegram, EOS, Library, Kin, all these broken deals from the last boom cycle, is that this Howey test is the central thing that you need to pay attention to in designing your network to make sure that you are not a security. Because if you are a security, or even if you could remotely be deemed to be a security, you wake up one day and your exchanges that you rely on vanish underneath you. Bittrex USA delisted 43 assets in one shot a few years ago because they were uncomfortable with the facts and circumstances of their creation. Because if Bittrex was trading securities, then it needed the securities licensing, and it needs all the compliance personnel internally to write reports and have meetings and commit to all that infrastructure that you need if you're dealing in securities, most of which derives from 1933 and 1934. And so you have a very expensive and risk-prone business model that you can avoid by simply saying no securities. And that's what people do. So our exchange infrastructure and other providers that come to Epic are not going to vanish overnight on us because of pressure from regulators. We've designed it in such a way that it's safe. It's safe not just for the laws today, but how they will be in the future. It's the purest, white as the driven snow way to do it. So anyway, the Howey test involves an investment of money into a common enterprise with the expectation of profit. And here's where the rubber meets the road, based solely on the efforts of others. Now, in this case, it's a very participatory model. Users create the software, miners invest their time and hardware resources and energy resources to obtain those coins. The people who are using it are also the owner operators in terms of figuring out how to use Epic as a way to pay their dog walker or in their small business, their boat rental or whatever. So you can't really argue that there's this group of people sitting in an office somewhere that are making the value. It's the users who buy their usage and the miners.
PS yesterday, I got my dog groomed and I was able to get my groomer to accept Epic Cash. I shared with her all the positive attributes and said, look, you download a wallet. I'll send you a link on how to do that. And that link can be found below, why I like Epic Cash and how to buy it. And I sent that to her. Today she's going to download the wallet and I am going to pay her in Epic Cash. So that is exciting, I think.
Solid use case right there.
Yeah, here in Miami, there's a lot of people from Cuba or Argentina, Venezuela, Dominican Republic, various Caribbean islands. And so I see it in my daily life. It's not enormous yet, of course, But if a single person can send money back home to Cuba and not have to pay the exorbitant fees of the current ways that they do it, whether it's Western Union or some other type of transfer service, the fact of the matter is that Epic is quite useful as an instant form of permissionless payments. And it's very ubiquitous too. I don't have the screens in front of me. I can stop sharing for a minute and pull it up. In fact, that would be good. But Epic is in.
We're gonna go to wrap it up there, but we're gonna go to yoga. We're gonna stick true to form here. We're not gonna go off the rails. All right, yoga. What do you think about the Howey test?
Well, I mean, the short of it, I think Max was really thorough in his definition, so there's really not much to improve on the perfection. But I mean, the short of it is the gold standard, if you will, for what is not a security is Bitcoin, because of its organicness, because of how it started, and Epic really matches all of those steps.
Right.
So I mean, short and sweet, Epic is essentially just a more evolved Bitcoin. It had the same origins, it had the same organic, starting. It was not an ICO. It was open for everybody to mine, et cetera, et cetera. Even in this day and age of information, it was actually wider known than Bitcoin originally was. As far as you can call early miners advantage, that Epic was, had a really tremendous exposure by the time it went mainnet for people to be able to have access to mining and to be able to get those early, easier to mine coins as the difficulty ramped up. So it's really, that's about the only thing that I can add is that if Bitcoin is used as sort of the default standard, for what Howey test views as not a security is Bitcoin, then Epic Cash is pretty much a spot-on match to that.
Well, what I will say, I'll just add this, is to be Howey compliant, you need to attain a score of 1. And there are many, many projects out there that don't even come close. And Epic Cash was designed to attain a score of 1 by the Crypto Rating Council. Max, can you unpack that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we haven't engaged with them yet. You don't really have to. They publish their scorecard online, and you can fill it out. And we've done that. Note to ourselves for the future, we probably should publish that in a form where people can evaluate that without having to take our word for it. But yes, absolutely. 1 is the best score you can get. 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. And these standards are being implemented as sort of a self-regulatory type of concept, and there's a lot of strong support for them. And so by designing for the perfection, it's really designed for low friction on anyone that wants to integrate something with a questionable score has to think about it. Whereas in our case, it's, oh, perfect. Okay, great. Like there's nothing to talk about there. Next topic. It just lubricates things in terms of connecting with everywhere that Epic needs to be a universal fungibility layer connected to all the other forms of value transfer that we have out there.
Yeah, just because the purpose of this channel is to be able to educate newbies, I would really appreciate it if you could publish that. And even if you could just create something, maybe even a Medium article or something, Max, that would talk about this and talk about your intentional design and how you didn't want to get that knock on the door 7 years down the road and put all of the coin holders and developers and miners at risk. And so I appreciate the fact that you've thought this through, but I would love to learn more about it. So if you could do that, that would be awesome.
Happy to. We benchmarked the Raven coin launch, which many people are familiar with, and there's quite a bit of community overlap between Raven and ours on the mining side. It was inspirational as a breakthrough, fair launch for its time, but there were a couple minor points that could be improved, and so they came out shortly before we came out, and we were able to stand on the shoulders of those particular giants and innovate for what we think of as enhanced compatibility with regulations. So yeah, this is a key strength. the advantage and value of which grows over time. And it's kind of like a hidden asset that we don't really get a lot of credit for, because historically it hasn't really been that important. You could launch a deal, and I mean, EOS raised 4.1 billion, and then years later coughed up 27 million as a fine, 10 million for the lawyers, and they got to keep their marbles. But other deals, it was a death sentence. So it's very unpredictable. And here you don't have that set of uncertainties. Based on how we designed it.
That's why you don't know what you don't know, right? We didn't know a month ago that there was going to be an infrastructure bill presented, and so it's not like the people running the show aren't incredible ankle biters that ultimately follow the money. They just want to be able to. They want to be able to control your financial. It's like if they could monitor every physical piece of cash out there, they would. And, now digitally, it's even easier than cash to be able to pay somebody, without being surveilled with Epic Cash. And ultimately, at the end of the day, they just don't like that. So they're going to make it very, very difficult for any of these larger this brings a great point. Sometimes it's good to be on the leading edge, but not on the bleeding edge. Sometimes it's good to have 10 years of tech in the rearview mirror to be able to, develop from, versus being, Satoshi Nakamoto back in 2009. There's some benefits there. Technology advances. And so, Epic Cash is invisible Bitcoin. And guess what? That's very, very powerful. So, and you've done it right to where nobody's going to come back and knock on the door and say, XRP, Ripple, you may be going to jail. And by the way, you better have a war chest to defend yourselves. So to me, this is all great news for Epic Cash. All right, let's go to the last one, and this is the one that I'm most excited about. This was going to be our only topic today until we decided, no, let's mix it up a little and have 4 segments to keep it lively. But I'm going to take this one to you, Yoga. Proof of work versus proof of stake.
So proof of work in a nutshell, and this is somehow it's been demonized recently thanks to Bitcoin's exuberant power consumption, but proof of work simply secures the network, okay? It oversees that fake transactions do not happen. It oversees that no fake coins are printed, for example. So it's sort of the antithesis to the money printer. So proof of stake creates value. By comparison, proof of stake creates value out of thin air that then needs to be justified by promises or backed by real value that needs to be audited and so on. But going back, the thing about proof of work, thanks to Bitcoin mining's excessive power consumption, it has gotten kind of a bad rap. And people don't realize this because it's not sensational. It's not, a headliner. But proof of work does not need to be as ridiculously power intensive as Bitcoin has become. But again, keep in mind, Bitcoin is technology that's over a decade old.
Right.
Okay. It's the old gas guzzler, if you will. Okay.
Very good.
And the future proofness, if you will, of Epic is partially because our blockchain is initially very light. Our blockchain, even in terms of storage, it's hundreds of times lighter than Bitcoin. And we use a multi-algorithmic approach to mining that allows more people to participate, rather than with Bitcoin, you have these super heavy, super focused ASIC engines. You have a thing that's 3,500 watts, a little box, okay? That's like half a foot by like a foot and a half long, okay? That consumes, like 2 microwaves worth of energy. And unlike your microwave running, for 10 minutes, or 2 minutes, this thing is running 24/7 nonstop. And then they have clusters of these things, whereas Epic is mineable with a regular PC. And not only that, but because of the way Epic proof of work is structured, we set it up so that we can rotate algorithms in and out. So the components that generate Epic Cash, that are mining Epic Cash, can be replaced as new, more energy efficient means of mining become available. And this is both in terms of software and hardware, more efficient algorithms. See, Bitcoin mining, again, it's so cumbersome because it's so old, okay? And the difficulty adjustment is what drives the necessity for heavier silicon, for hotter miners, for more energy consumption. But it's not that's not mandatory. That's just the way they chose it, and that's what they're locked into, and there's really no way for them to pivot to anything else.
Mm-hmm.
So they're kind of like on this path of obsolescence. It's like a train that's going to nowhere, if you will. Okay, it's on a train track. Well, with Epic, if you will, we have multiple train tracks, and we can lay our own parallel tracks to that, and we can ship the train, and we can split the train, and we can do all these different things.
That's a good analogy.
And that is the, again, as I said, the future proofness. I like that word that I just made up. And we entertain other technologies. Okay, for example, like RISC-V, which is this hot buzz thing now. It's a reduced instruction set computer that is not only provides more efficient and optimized solution for mining, but it's also because of its simplicity, it creates less wiggle room for embedding spy technologies currently infesting all major CPUs and APUs by AMD and Intel. So that's proof of work is, from a technical standpoint, that's how I see it. And again, proof of stake, it's not that it doesn't have a place under the sun, but
Ruth's Chris, it sure does. I want some proof of stake at Ruth's Chris.
I'm a big stake fan. Exactly. Yeah, I'm with you on that. But in terms of proof of stake, like the vampire, like stake the vampire's heart, it's a security in most cases. And it needs to be really justified, that it's not a rug pull, that it's not a pump and dump. What is, there are immediate questions, whether if proof of work, people choose to participate and then they have to contribute work, to earn. With proof of stake, the value is created immediately out of nothing. Okay. It's like somebody like in Zimbabwe printed trillions of Zimbabwean dollars or whatever. Okay. And nothing is really backing that except, here's a piece of paper. It's so, and that's why the regulation has become more severe, because there are too many cases where, I'm not talking about the big guys, that are like running in billions, but even though some of the big guys had to give away like as much as 1.8 billion that they raised, and then they had to return it back to their investors. Okay. But on a smaller scale, guys run, a MILF coin or some other coin that they just print, some kind of Ethereum token saying that they just print out of nowhere. And then they run it through influencers, they pump it up, everybody, all the influencers dump it, they cash out, and then everybody else is left holding the bag. And that's the reason why, SEC got involved and FBI got involved and IRS got involved, all those other guys. With proof of work, what you're offering is a very organic, very clean, very justifiable process of value creation. Okay, so
that's awesome. Max, how about you?
Yeah. So when you said proof of stake, I was my mind went to the gutter. I was thinking, well, 24 hours later, I can prove that I ate a steak. Let me show you how. And that kind of expresses how I feel about the whole concept. Different strokes for different folks, but I prefer high assurance rather than less. I prefer less risk rather than more. I prefer decentralization rather than centralization. And I think like Betamax, it looked like a winner for a while, but there's a lot of reasons why Ethereum hasn't gone to proof of stake just yet, because it's a really bad idea for a lot of reasons. And of course, I'm biased and I'm talking my own book, wearing my Epic hat, but I think there's very sound reasons for why proof of work is simply more secure. And when you're dealing with people's money, why would you take any shortcuts in this area? I just don't get it.
Well, to me, when I hear proof of stake, I start thinking about other projects where newbies like me are influenced by influencers online who are saying, oh man, you can get these crazy returns if you just buy these coins and stake them, and you're going to get like 30%, per quarter. I don't, all the numbers get crazy. And then all of a sudden you're like, no. And then you have those same friends coming back and saying, hey, I got my initial investment out and it's been a half a year and my initial investment is still working for me and I'm still getting these spinoffs. So it's hard for me, not knowing anything, to be able to criticize when I have friends out there who seem to be making bank off some of these projects that are proof of stake.
The casino lets you win sometimes. It has to, or else people stop going. Overall, the numbers are against you. You are the chum, you're the food, you're the plankton, you're the algae in that ecosystem. Go ahead, Yoga.
One thing before we get completely carried away with proof of stake bashing, the question is always, what is backing the value? Right. So the rug pull ICOs that were basically created out of thin air and had nothing but inflated promises were one thing, but if tokenizing some of the legitimate assets into a parallel proof of stake structure, for example, tokenizing like Epic Cash, for example, or something that is fundamentally sound and has an established value, and creating a derivative product from that is governed by, let's say, a DAO, then you're getting into more legitimate territory that is economically sound. And what you can essentially create is a dividend-bearing thing, and by staking you can create a mechanism of scarcity creation, encouraging people to hold, and so on, and none of those things are nefarious. I mean, that actually follows a lot of the conventional
that makes sense to me,
economics. So I don't want to kind of bash mindlessly. I just want to delineate that proof of stake makes it a lot easier for scams to exist, whereas proof of work is a very show it to me. It's a much more transparent, much more controllable process, if you will, much more
so are you saying
process.
Are you saying, Yoga, like, let's just say that we make up a coin, Uncle V coin, and it, I promise that if you get this coin, you can stake it and you're going to get all of these dividends, if you will. But at the end of the day, isn't the question, what is the utility of the Uncle V coin outside of just staking it?
Well, first question would be, what is backing Uncle V's coin at the moment you roll it out? Okay, if Uncle V, for example, says that, hey, here's a legal document, okay, and I'm putting my house to, that is paid off, okay, to back its value, okay, and that is the baseline. Let's say I'm creating 1,000 shares, and each share represents 1,000th of value of my house, and then on top of that, I'm going to start building things with that value. Then you have a baseline that is irrevocable value.
Collateral.
It's collateralized, and that's the thing that I'm trying to kind of drive, is that what is the origin of the value? In case of Epic, for example, the origin of the value is the virgin birth of the project, and it is volunteered. There's no evil corporation behind it or anything like that. It is a community thing. It's like a collective farm, if you will. Okay, where people are sharing resources, and nobody's forced into participation. It's completely egalitarian. It is completely meritocratic, and whatever the value is created is visible and measurable.
Right. So the harder you work, or you can add value to that collective in many ways. You can tend the flocks, you can farm the land, you can build some houses on some property. I mean,
and because it's decentralized, and nobody can, like with proof of stake, or there's usually a central entity also. Okay, so with a proof of work, there's no person that can just say, okay, you know what, I had enough of this, I'm going to take my toys and go home. Okay, I'm going to grab my ball and go home, and everybody's just screwed all of a sudden because they just can't play anymore. So with proof of work, it assures that, like, if somebody rage quits on Bitcoin, well, nobody cares. Nobody's even going to notice. It's same thing with Epic. Like if some miner, like if I tomorrow decide that I'm not mining Epic Cache anymore, I'm going to take my node off the network. Well, whatever, dude. It's like there's thousands of other nodes there, okay, supporting it. So
can you show us the nodes? Is that sorry for the curveball?
Max, I think you got the
yeah. Let me just stop
there.
share and pull them up.
And I will tell you guys, it's 10:56. We got started a little late, so let's say we have 10 minutes to wrap this up.
Perfect.
Solid.
All right, I'm going back into.
And I hope everybody watching, if you like this format, please let us know below. If you don't like it, let us know that too, because this is for you guys.
Look at this. I mean, this says it all. BSV has been 51% attacked 5 times in the last month. And so despite $3 billion of market cap riding on that blockchain, because it only has 199 nodes, and it uses the same single algorithm as BTC, it's very vulnerable. And Coinbase halted trading. I don't know if it's a delisting or a trading halt, but it's certainly important as far as a degradation of the assurance level of the standard that people can expect when using that. And then you contrast that with Epic, which despite zero organized marketing effort other than the grassroots efforts of our holders, we've managed to sprinkle Epic in 101 countries, 512 regions that are running nodes. And most of those are mining. We don't know the exact percentage because of the privacy features, which are getting stronger with V3, incidentally. It brings Tor into the network in a much more holistic way than is right now just on the transactions. So a lot of this data, we won't even be able to get when people are using Tor to mine. But I mean, you can see there's some parts where we're not, but if we've got one cell in Nigeria, or looks like we have somebody in Canary Islands off the coast of Africa, Mauritius, little islands you've never heard of and have to look up. Epic is there already. And when there's a node there, there's somebody that knows how to work the system. There's somebody that is prepared to transact with you and trade. And my sheep for your bushel of millet can occur through Epic there. And it can across time and distance as those people in China learn.
So how many nodes are there?
It's hard to quantify. I mean, because I would say roughly around 4,000 nodes.
Okay, and you were saying BSV was 199.
199. Yeah.
And
now the other thing to keep in mind is Epic is a multi-algo, so we're not running a single algorithm. We're running 3 algorithms. Okay, so for somebody to try and pull off a 51% attack, it's really hard to execute against Epic because they have to essentially algorithms rotate, so they would have to achieve and maintain dominance. 51% dominance over all 3 algos, and that's
impossible.
Well, it's not impossible. It's just super highly unlikely. I never say impossible when math is involved.
I guess that's right.
Yeah, I just think it's highly unlikely. So, but what's interesting with this is that so this is over a period of time, and some of the nodes I consolidated, for the privacy sake, that they mostly reflect not the physical location of the actual miner's home, but actually their internet service provider, if you will.
Okay.
So some of these were, like in case of mine, when I look at where this map shows my house, I'm like 20 miles away from where it's actually showing me on the map. Okay.
Hey.
Yeah.
I want to wrap this up, Max. I'm going to direct this at you. I'm looking at this page and I'm seeing this big country, Africa. Okay. And I know in an initial conversation with you, you talked about your long-term vision of being able to have, in essence, think of this node page here, but think of everyone in Africa having a cell phone whereby our blockchain is so minimalistic, if you will, that you can have it on your cell phone. So literally you could have these nodes being anyone with a cell phone in Africa could be mining Epic Cash. Is that a fair statement?
Absolutely.
And how might that change some Africans' life? Let's say in 5 years.
All right. So in June of 2028, when the supply of Epic matches that of BTC, it's a time that we call the singularity. There will be 20.4 million Epic and 20.4 million BTC. And so over the next 7 years, there's already 19 million BTC. It's had its glory days behind it. So over the next 7 years, a very small group of people in the BTC idea of Bitcoin are going to share that 1.4 million coins, whereas in Epic, the supply is 12 million coins. And we can, open that up to literally billions of people. 5.2 billion is the number that have smartphone devices that will be able to engage with this once it fully rolls out. And so you've got the 8 million coins going into billions of hands versus thousands or tens of thousands of hands. And since this is a network effects phenomenon, after all, nobody wants the money that nobody wants. We're going to be able to stitch together more of the world seamlessly through this coin dispersion mechanism that these antiquated networks simply cannot do.
You know what, guys? I don't know how to end this any better than that. If you wouldn't mind stopping your screen share, Max. I want to thank everyone. This was great. I enjoyed the heck out of this, and I look forward to more. Max, I would ask, I know that you have notes there, and I think it would be cool if somewhere, someplace, you could just simply take those notes so we can be open kimono with anyone and everyone who wants to take a deeper dive. I can ultimately, in my show notes, be able to just link to wherever you would house those and encourage people to go take a look at the notes that we prepared for this show.
The link is in the Telegram. It's in our chat. You have it. Just throw it in there. It's open access, and even comments are enabled. So if we have something incorrect, or somebody can add links or content, or maybe add to it, feel free to comment. That would be very helpful.
Excellent. Which Telegram, just so I know where to go look?
Uncle Yoga Max.
Okay. So that one. I want to end this up with folks out there that if you are curious about crypto, and I hope you are, there are just so many good things around the corner. And I hope you share this channel with others who also might be curious about crypto and the future and approaching it from an educational level, because that's what we're here for. As I promised from the very beginning, I'm just documenting my journey. My journey right now has taken me through this little town called Epic Cash, and I just love it. And I can't seem to even be motivated to go on to the next town or city because I'm just enjoying all of the good company here. But if you like what you see here, please come join us over on Telegram at a couple of places. One is t.me/Epic Cash. It is a great community. You're going to find it's a wonderful community. And if you have interest in mining, we'll be able to divert you from there. If you have interest in off-topic things, we can direct you. And then I'd like to invite you to t.me/Uncle Vigilante Lounge. Uncle Vigilante Lounge. And that's just where there's a group of like-minded people who may be newbies to crypto, who it's just become a great community. And by the way, women out there, you are so appreciated and there's so much value add. Max, I know you personally have taken a few under your wing over the last week in the Epic Cash community. Let's just leave on that because I want as many women over in Epic Cash community as possible because honestly, you just make life better.
Yeah, I'd like to shout out to my twin Lydia's. One runs a boat rental business and another small business that we're figuring out how to get accepting Epic as payments. So shout out to Lydia, and then also Lydia, the mother trucker, who I don't know where she is because she's on the road, no doubt. But she, while she's delivering goods along the highways, she's listening to podcasts about crypto and turning around and creating content for others as well. Also, Shelley Duke in Michigan. We don't have a lot, but we're doing our best to balance out the pale, sweaty nerds in our mom's basement, which was our exclusive demographic when we started. And so come one, come all, especially if you're a senior citizen, or there's some special challenge and that makes it interesting. We're really putting a lot of effort into figuring out how to make this useful tech for everyone, not just early adopters. And your help in banging the head against the wall and figuring out how to make it easier really helps in that. I'm available on all the Epic Telegrams, and feel free to reach out. I'm Max Freeman 4 on Telegram, and would welcome the chance to get anybody plugged into our wild and wonderful world here.
Excellent. And Yoga, how about you? You want to let people know where they can find you, sir?
Same place. I'm on Telegram. I'm on Telegram around the clock, so people there already know that. And
your handle is Yoga Dude.
That's it.
One of the best handles ever.
Nice and simple.
All right, guys. I am Uncle Vigilante, Uncle V, Uncle Odd, Todd, whatever you want to call me. But I wish everybody a wonderful weekend. And please do let us know in the comments below if you enjoyed this format, and we'll do it. Guys, I kind of like the Friday at noon, if you guys do.